There's a story.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the digital download. Welcome everybody out there. As always, we welcome your comments, your insights, your arguments, your anything to discuss with us. Today, we're going to try something very different. What we're going to, well, it's not going to be that different. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on one subject, because that's what we did last week and it seemed to work well. So we're just going to focus on one rather than lots of different things. So today we're going to talk about leadership after COVID.
Good Lord.
Which is as wide as it's broad.
In an hour.
In an hour, yes. I'm going to go round the squares if you can do that. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody, I'm Mike Garrison, and even though my sign doesn't say it, I'm with DLA Ignite as a proud partner.
Eric.
Hi, my name's Eric Doyle. I'm the co-founder of Crux, and we are partners with DLA Ignite.
Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Gray from, as it says on the badge, DLA Ignite. I'm Tim's business partner and co-founder of DLA.
Lenwood.
Hey, good morning. I'm Lenwood Ross, founder and CEO of Accelerate, and we are proud partners of DLA Ignite.
Thomas.
Hello, everybody. I'm one of the founders for Social Selling HQ, and I am also a very active partner for DLA Ignite.
And last but not least, Brandon.
Glad I'm not least. Hey, everybody, I'm Brandon Lee, founder of FunnelAmplified and also a proud partner of DLA.
So who would like to kick off the discussion about leadership in a post-pandemic COVID world?
I have,
okay.
Garrett, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thanks for coming, everyone. It seems we've got nothing to say. Hi.
Well, as Tim pointed out to me yesterday on a different live, I like to talk, and maybe I even talked a little too much yesterday, but
not at all.
Here's what I've been thinking about when you shared that with us about leadership in a post-COVID world. John Maxwell has a law, he's got all his laws of leadership. And one of the laws is the law of the lid. And it's designed and personal, but it's basically your life is never going to go above the lid of your personal leadership. But he also applies it into businesses. And I think right now, when it comes to this whole digital transformation and doing things differently, which is a really big term, right? They're just doing things differently. How do you motivate when you're working from home by yourself? How do you bond with your colleagues? How do you build relationships with customers? Everything. Companies aren't going to make changes until the top starts making changes, and they raise that lid by demonstrating to the team how the heck we do this stuff that we used to do, but now do it in a digital environment. What do y'all think?
You know the story about the flea in the jar, don't you? You know about fleas and jars.
Yep.
So if you put a flea in a jar and you put a lid on the top, it just jumps up until it hits the lid. You take the lid off, it doesn't jump any higher. It just still goes to the top of where the jar was. I think that's what you're saying.
Also, it becomes like trained behavior. It knows its
trained
limits.
behavior. A flea, you train the flea in the jar. You take the lid off, and it still doesn't jump out of the jar.
Crikey!
I think that one of the things that we've seen over the last 18 months of COVID is that all of the paradigms that we've known around how you can't forge a relationship unless you meet somebody face to face, you can't close a deal unless you meet somebody face to face. People want to have face-to-face interactions in order to do business. I think those have been demonstrated that they're simply not true now. So, of the people on the call, I haven't seen Tim for 18 months face-to-face, but we speak most days. I haven't seen Thomas for 3 years, and although I consider Eric, Mike, Lenwood, and Brandon to be friends, good friends of mine, we've never met in person. And I think that this has shifted how we behave as individuals and how accessible others are to us through mediums like this. So I think that what managers and leaders need to do moving forward is to say that this is acceptable. There will be instances, of course, when people need to meet face to face for their mental health, for team building exercises, for reward for things, but it isn't a prerequisite in the way that it was before COVID. And I think that simultaneously creates some real challenges for individuals, for businesses, and indeed for whole kind of office districts within cities. You know, because you run a sandwich bar next to an office block that's got 10,000 people in it, and all of a sudden there's 1,000 people in it, then you're making a tenth of the money that you were doing. So there are huge knock-on effects for this, but I don't think things will go back to how they were, and I think it's good that they won't, personally.
I would ask the question, if we're focusing in on the broad concept of leadership, I would ask the question, were we in a position where we had leadership sorted before COVID?
No.
Correct.
Right.
So I had a kind of opinion and a theory on this, that we were in worse shape in terms of global corporate leadership prior to COVID than we'd ever been. It was a mess, an absolute mess. I actually got to the stage where I don't know what good leadership means anymore. I don't know what it means. And I think the last couple of years, the last 18 months, have further compounded that whole complexity and sort of the question marks. There's lots of Sims walking about with question marks over their head.
So when you say don't believe in leadership, do you mean that from an effectiveness perspective, or from a here's somebody I can believe in perspective, or both?
A mixture of both. A mixture of both. When we look at the, I know this is one of our most referenced reports, but Edelman's Trust Barometer is a great reference point. The amount of suspected misinformation and lies that's coming from, certainly from big corporate, and mistrust of information. But even take that down into the sectors that I kind of work in. I work with much smaller companies. I just question, we've all been on, how many leadership courses have you been on in your life? My goodness, it just goes, you know, that leadership, and then the servant leadership things come out. We're all packed off to that course to learn how to be servant leaders, and then we come back and we try and implement all these different types of leaderships, all the books on leadership. I'm at the point in my life where I've worked with brilliant leaders, people that I thought were brilliant leaders. I've worked with people that I thought were terrible leaders, dreadful leaders. But I don't quite know where the happy medium is. I don't quite know what it is. We talk about leadership as if we all understand it. I put my hand up. I think it's a very complex issue, very complex problem, leadership. I've been in mildly leadership type roles before. Don't think I was particularly good, if I'm being honest, because I struggled with the whole idea of it. I went on the courses. I tried to implement what they told me on the courses and found that didn't work. So the whole idea of leadership in a modern context, I can't get my head around it, because I don't think we actually got our head around it as a globe before COVID. I don't think anything's changed.
Well, I'd like to jump in there. So I think you're overthinking it.
Okay.
Eric, number one, and number two, you know, the thing about COVID is that it's digitized the world. It jumped the world by 6 to 7 years. And social and all the aspects of it. And if there's anybody on our team that's done an exceptional job of that, it's you, Eric.
Yes.
With respect to specifically bringing the leaders to bear with respect to their use and the example they set on being on social, right? And if there's anything that's changed in leadership, it's the ability to use that medium and all the mediums within it to really develop their leadership skills, implement leadership skills and ideas and concepts across the enterprise, whatever size of company, because that's the wonderful thing about social. I can hit all 10,000 people or all 5 people. The size of the company doesn't matter.
Oh no, yeah, I completely agree with you in terms of social there. If this was a conversation about leadership and social media, I would have a completely different point to make. I agree with you completely, Thomas. My point is, on the wider issue of leadership, I think there's still a lot of question marks on just the general concept of leadership.
I think there's always going to be questions on leadership, and you're right, Eric. There's servant leadership. There's this leadership. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. And I mean, I'm a certified coach with John Maxwell Leadership for the past, I don't know, 10 years, and it is a challenge. It's constantly a challenge. I mean, and then you bring in change management and how does leadership deal with change? And then you bring in culture and what's the right culture to build, and all of those elements. I agree. It's very, very overwhelming. I do
complex,
think that, it's very complex. And I do think that, we've never solved that problem. And I don't think we're never going to have a perfect explanation, but leadership moving into COVID and post-COVID world in a digital world, and I mean, COVID just accelerated it, but it was coming, right? I think there's a huge transition because a lot of the leadership that's making decisions about how to transition companies into digital, they still don't even understand social or the changes in how to communicate in digital. And I think there's a huge challenge and a huge opportunity right there, because there's psychological differences about the way people respond to an email versus a phone call versus a face-to-face. There's a ton of psychological things that we need to understand about how people show up and engage on social media or don't. And I think most leaderships just don't have a clue about the reality of it, maybe on a philosophical side, but not the reality.
But leaders have there are three things that leadership has to do, aren't there? There's the visionary thing. So, whether you love him or hate him, somebody like Elon Musk has got the visionary thing. He can see the future. He's putting his company towards the future. There's the inspirational thing. People that get their team to walk with them. A good example of that might be Richard Branson. If you read some of the biographies on Richard Branson in the early days of Virgin, he ended up not having the money to pay his team, and they still worked because he was able to inspire them at that human level. And then you've got the people like Jack Welch that are possibly neither of the first two, but they're very, very good at the mechanics of leadership. So when we talk about leadership, which one of these are we talking about? Are we talking about the visionary? Are we talking about the inspirer? Or are we talking about the executor rather than the executioner?
Hey, so am I the only veteran on the call here? Military veteran? Anybody else?
I think we're all veterans in the other sense of the word.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I want to get back to Eric's point, because while I am terribly interested in leadership on social media, I think that the problem is much bigger, and I would like to talk about that. And this is where you get into the big difference between a veteran and a civilian, right? Leadership in the military involves spending people's lives, okay? And that is the big problem we have with leadership, because we always define leadership in our societies as business, which is complete crap and a recent conversation. There are thousands of years of what leadership really is if you understand the military, because fundamentally leadership is about understanding what it costs to accomplish the mission and making decisions strategically and tactically. And so I'm not equating business to combat, but I'm also not dismissing the impact, because we've seen what happens when big corporate leadership fails and thousands or hundreds of thousands of lives are ruined. We've seen this. Whether it's a faulty product, Nestle in India, or it's a bad decision where a leader fails tragically personally and an entire company goes down, And so I just want to have people understand that if you're really looking for historical best practices in leadership, you need to look at military, right? It doesn't mean that's the only place you look, but you need to look at it. And one of the greatest lessons I've ever read distilled was by a guy named Jocko Willink in a book, Eric. Yes, it's a book. But he talks about detaching and about how valuable that is. And it comes from his time as a brand new SEAL. He got into SEAL training, and he was on an exercise with the team, and he's the least experienced person on the team, and they were assaulting an oil rig. This is why I thought you would like it, Eric.
Yeah, cool. Love it already. I'm in.
So assaulting an oil rig from a military standpoint is one of the most dangerous and complex environments you can have, because combat occurs in 720 degrees, like everywhere, right? Because of the necessity of how the flooring works. You can be shot anywhere. And so they got on there, and the entire team got hung up scanning. They got to a particular point, and nobody made a call. Nobody moved. Nobody would move. And he's a brand new guy. He's sitting there looking downrange going, we're not moving. We're doing nothing. What are we doing? What are we doing? And finally, he stepped back and stood up and looked at what was happening. And he saw that the entire SEAL team was locked in on something. And he had the guts to make the call. Move left, right? Everybody moved. They finished the exercise. He was afraid he was going to get, ridiculed and criticized by the senior leadership. They're like, good call. And it's about detaching. And so one of the biggest things that I think post-COVID or during COVID,
Thanks, Langwood.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that leaders need to do is understand that, just like in combat, whenever something of tremendous disruption or conflict happens, often the best thing you can do is take a step back, change your perspective, and evaluate what's next to do. And I would just say that leadership is strategy and tactics.
So Mike, what do you think about Will's comment?
I think that's a very difficult comment to respond to, because I don't think it's accurate historically. Because
I think for non-veterans that don't understand what you guys did, we have an opinion that leadership in the military is, you guys are here, you've signed up, you know what happens if you don't do what I say. We're going over the top, get over the top.
Yeah, and that's
what we think.
Yeah, you're wrong, but I get it. And the thing is like, everybody, there is no racism in a foxhole, right? Sometimes before you get in the foxhole, sometimes after you get in the foxhole, right? But like when you're in it, when you're doing it, like when a whole bunch of people are getting ready to jump out of an airplane in the middle of the night in minus 10 degrees, everyone's worried about making sure everyone gets out of that airplane safely, so because we need everyone. It's kind of like Lenwood. I loved your poll today, Lenwood, because at the heart of leadership is your people, right? And that's like I think the leader's number one skill is to evaluate, is the cost to my people worth accomplishing the mission?
I used to have an opinion that I think's changed over time, and I think COVID times have really sort of added to this. That and when I've been in a position myself where I've been leading teams and leading organizations, I've questioned, what am I here for? What am I, apart from creating shareholder value, what am I supposed to be doing? And I've really wrestled with that whole concept. And maybe Thomas is absolutely right, but I actually think it's worth overthinking. I think it's worth.
I would just add to this, guys. I mean, I don't know about anybody here, but I will say that I've never ever seen a time that I've lived through from a business perspective where employees and the teams have so much power in their hands. And the way we're talking about leaders in that context is so out of perspective. And we're talking about the troops just leaving, right?
Yeah, just packing up.
Never mind going into battle, just saying, yeah, I don't.
Nah. I actually think that is. I won't say it's all related, but it is somewhat related. I think that the nature of leadership. I'm not saying that there was 100% effective leadership going on. I won't say pre-pandemic. I think that what has happened is the pandemic has accelerated trends that were already underway, right? So I really think of it more as a digital. Well, I think you would agree that the pandemic accelerated digital trends, which is where I was going.
No question about it. But
okay, so you agree. So digital trends that were starting before were accelerated by the pandemic, and there was a leadership gap before. Really in the transition, our whole economy is going through this huge transition, and there's a big difference between the kind of leadership that's going on in startups and out on Silicon Valley and the kind of leadership that's going on in Wall Street and even on Main Street. And I just think that there needs to be a reevaluation of what's needed in this new context, which I think is kind of where Eric was going with it.
I think that's really we're a long way away from having that reevaluation at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
big time.
When you see that company, and I forget which company it is, startup company, I think in San Francisco, where the chief exec has taken a 95% pay cut in order that everybody in the company can earn whatever it is, $100,000 a year. And he said, commitment is up, performance is up, profits are up, everything is up. The only thing that isn't up is his own pay packet. And he said, the difference is I drive a 2-year-old car rather than a brand new Ferrari or whatever.
Actually, his employees, Adam, just bought him a brand new car.
That's right. They did. They did as a. But I think that's a fantastic. That's a fantastic beacon for people to rally around and say that's what we need to be doing. And Matt made a comment here that leaders, that includes making tough and unpopular decisions. I completely disagree. I don't think it does anymore. I think we live in an age when the duty of care that we have, and Tim often speaks about our duty of care to people that we work with, the duty of care is paramount now. In the days of Jack Welch, it would be, we'll sack the bottom 15% of performers in this company every single year.
Yeah, Jack Welch is not seen as a good leader anymore. It's not.
No, exactly. And now, actually, what we need to be doing is we need to be supporting people, saying, you've made a commitment to this company, we're going to make a commitment to you. And there will be people, of course there will, that aren't a good fit or are genuinely lazy or do not want to help the company succeed. But most people that don't perform will not be performing because they have personal challenges and issues. And it should be our duty as leaders at whatever level we're at to support those people and help them better themselves. So this is about taking a difficult decision, but a popular difficult decision, to say to the shareholders,
if people are not money. If you have to fire people, then your recruitment process is wrong.
Absolutely.
Well, hold on. I've been in a position where I've been in a position where I've been instructed by the board, lose half your staff. But hold on. No, hold on. Lose half your staff. That's it. Go do that. You're the MD of a business unit. You need to shrink by 50%. No discussion. Get it done and bring the numbers back next week. Yeah. I love all of them. I'm trying to leave a legacy. I'm trying to be caring and supportive and all of that. But my board have just said half the team. It's not about performance. It's about shrinking the number.
Is that a leadership? That's not a leadership decision. That's just a managerial situation.
It's managerial, Eric.
Yeah, well, hold on. It is managerial until you go and do it, and then it affects your leadership position from the remainder of the team.
Good point. Yeah.
It changes the whole. It puts dye in the water. You were trying to create something good. You've had to do something to placate shareholders.
And Eric, and those things happen.
Yeah.
And so you have to go through with those things. But if you're running a business as in every day and it's moving forward, regardless of things that are basically impacting us, that are coming at us, then I think that there is a difference between leadership and management. And I think as leaders, I think one of the things that I've seen, certainly I picked it up, I started smelling it in the industry probably about like last October, was that there was this fundamental shift to the fact that the employees now have the power.
Yeah.
And I agree with Adam, which is that as leaders, what we have to do is that we have to be, I was talking to you earlier this morning, and you said that you had you were given some leadership advice where it was all about the people.
Mm-hmm.
And fundamentally now, what's
all about the
COVID
people.
It's because what used to happen before COVID was we said it was all about the people, but it wasn't.
But it wasn't. Yeah.
but now,
until we close the boardroom door,
because we now know that people are going to walk out.
It's always, so there's always been an impact like this. And so the thing I'd say is, like, Jocko's got another expression called dichotomy of leadership. And I think it's valuable to what Adam was saying. The dichotomy of leadership is this: you have to accomplish the mission, right? As a leader, you are in charge of accomplishing a mission. And whether that's, rolling out a new product or, clearing a block in Fallujah, right? The other dichotomy is your team needs to know that you care about them. Like, the people that you're sending into harm's way to potentially die have to know you care about them. And yet you still have to send them into the mission. And the leadership quotient in that is communication. I forget who posted it earlier, but great leaders are able to communicate both of those sometimes opposing concepts to their people effectively. Like,
I think towards the end of my my sort of corporate leadership, I think I finally got it. I think I was finally getting it, and this worked for me. This was a good measure for me. That my role as a leader was to create the environment and the culture where everyone in the organization felt safe and had everything that they needed to do their jobs efficiently and effectively. So I use that as a measure. Does this decision I'm about to make people feel safe? If the answer is no, I need a rethink. And does everyone have everything that they need to do what they need to do efficiently and effectively? So I need to give them all the resources that they need within reason, within practical spend limits and all of that. So do they feel safe, and do they have everything that they do, and do they feel valued? That was a part of that whole safety piece. Do they feel valued? Do they feel as if they're making a value contribution? So that was kind of what I was eking towards as a leader. And that was my own sort of personal measure. Does everyone feel safe and valued? And does everyone have what they need to do their job efficiently and effectively? Because you know what it's like. If you're asked to do something, if your job is to put that over there, but there's big barriers in the way to putting that over there, or you've got to walk 5 miles to do it, it's kind of silly. So focusing in on making sure everyone was efficient and effective and had everything that they needed and felt safe and valued was what I personally came down to, and that was my personal measure.
Odessa has asked an interesting. Oh, sorry.
Which one?
She said, why are there leaders who get this?
Well,
because leaders are forged in the business of the past, aren't they?
Yeah.
So by the time you became a leader of the business that you were running, you had spent 20 years working your way up when you had been sheep dipped in the way of thinking that was old people that had done it that way because they were sheep dipped in it that way. And it takes a special kind of person to look at this and say, it's the king in his new clothes. We're going down this route, and actually everything we're trying to achieve around staff commitment, staff performance, loyalty, customer loyalty, love for the brand, love for the environment in which we work, all of that, the actions that we're taking are absolutely driving the converse behavior. So you're going to be on a performance improvement program because you haven't made your number this month. Well, that's not a way to motivate somebody. That's a way to punish somebody.
Yeah.
And to assume and I think that everybody that you hire has got all the answers. This is what I'm asking you to do. We're all on a journey. And, every day, all of us learn something new about what we're doing, how we do it, and indeed who we are. And everybody that reports to us is on the same journey at a different point, arguably, but on the same journey. So it's our job to bring those people along. And the more we empower and educate those people, whether those people are employees or even customers, the more loyal they become, and the better they perform, and the happier they are.
William Shorten used a term earlier on, and I'm really sorry, I'm just putting my hand up for a second. He used a term, if you go down a few in the chat there, William used a term, maybe I'm the only one that doesn't know what it means, VUCA, VUCA. Maybe it was a typo, maybe he meant it. What does that mean? What does that mean, the word? Does anyone know?
William.
Yeah,
Sounds right.
yeah, it's
Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Yeah, it's the fact that the world is a mixed up, complex,
Right.
Things coming at you from all different angles.
Sorry, Brandon, over to you.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think the challenge with this topic is that there's companies are from small companies to Fortune 50, right? And I think somebody posts in there, why are there so few leaders that understand this? I think there's actually a lot of leaders that are understanding this, and they do understand this. And a lot of them don't. I mean, here's my personal example. I think the companies I built, I think we've had great culture because we focused on the people. It's how God created me, and it's who I am, and I focused on it. But we got to a certain point, and I was either going to not grow much more because you start getting more and more people, and it's just harder to lead masses from that same culture, because then you start getting people that take advantage of it, and you have to go to rules that are more black and white, and it doesn't give you the freedom to lead from more of a human perspective. But I am watching more startups that I think are doing a great job. I'm watching what SalesLoft does as a leadership organization and how fast they're growing. I mean, there is not a single person I've ever engaged with at SalesLoft that doesn't think that SalesLoft is the cat's meow. They love their job, they love where they work, they love the mission and all that. And I think they're doing a fantastic job, and they're getting at a scale now where I think it's going to become more of a challenge. But I think there are a lot of people out there that understand this and are implementing it and demonstrating it well.
Well, leadership is not universally applied. And so this is another thing that you learn in the military or in a large organization. I'm not going to talk about, think about this. There's squad leadership, right? There's platoon, there's company, there's battalion. And so the problem you have is that you need to lead, you need to expand how you lead, how you do things as you are handling larger things. And like what Brandon was just talking about, there are lots of people that are great at leading in startups that are absolutely not equipped to lead at a multinational level. They can get there, to Adam's point, if they have mentoring and they've got, follow-up and stuff like that. But my big point is this: leadership has to evolve depending upon what your mission is.
Interesting that you mentioned mentoring, because obviously we're talking about leadership within a post-COVID environment. And part of the conversation inevitably is about this hybrid working, whatever that means. So, some people are going to go back to the office, some people are going to stay at home, some people are going to blend the two together. And I think that one of the questions that I thought about when I was thinking about that was this idea of mentoring. So in the old days, you would attach yourself to somebody within the organization that was senior and knew their way around, and you would learn from them. And I think that the process of having those anecdotal and chance encounters with people was incredibly powerful to help educate and teach people how to operate in the organization. And I think we run a very real risk of losing that process in the Zoom world, where I have to schedule a meeting with you. I don't want to schedule a meeting. I just want to stop by your desk for 2 minutes to ask you something or run an idea by you.
Is that stopping by your desk or running an idea? Is that accomplished with a different kind of communication tool today, or can it be accomplished with the, whether it be a note in Slack or maybe a quick video call? I don't know what I know in the the communication stack, these different tools are supposed to have different purposes, and I just wonder whether, you know, there is some attempt to use technology to kind of recreate that kind of quick stop by.
You know, I think what you're talking about is the act of doing that stop by, and there can be a variety of different ways of doing that. And technology is a great way to do that. And I think every team's got to figure out their, like, I mean, I've got a outsourced partner that we invited them to use Slack because our team uses Slack, and their team just went, no, they don't use Slack. But if I email them, they respond quicker than anybody I know. So I don't think that the medium is as important as leadership demonstrating whatever the goal is, that we care, that we're concerned, that we want to have that, you know, that one-to-one conversation, and choose the medium that makes sense. But I do think the video is a richer medium than anything. I think there's a lot that gets lost in text, even if it's trying to be concerned about somebody.
Yeah. I this is related, but not 100%. I'm not sure. I had to go into New York City last week for a meeting. Okay. And it was miserable. It was the first time that I needed to go into the city and it was the prospect wanted to meet face to face, and it was, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours prep to you know, get ready, take the train, get on the train, get in there, walk to the meeting, wait for the meeting to start, you know, then have the meeting, then back on the train, back, you know, I think it was maybe like 5 hours, when, you know, 1 hour we could have been on, and it would have been a better, it would have been more effective experience. I mean, I was really salty. Not at the prospect, but
Yeah.
it's just like I lost so much time to that whole process to meet this guy face to face. I mean, did we really need to meet
at that stage and commit half a day to it?
It's
that's
such a waste of time.
I mean, it was like when you know, people are talking about the what we're gonna do here, but I mean, we're talking serious time. Like someone having to go into work every day to sit at a desk. Maybe they'll have interaction with somebody else, maybe not. Like it's not every day that you're having some, you know, amazing conversation with a person that is creates some innovative idea. Come on, that doesn't happen every day. You know, you don't necessarily know when it's going to happen, but to lose all that time.
So what you're saying is we can qualify these things way more quickly, way more efficiently and effectively, with using new digital formats. We can qualify. Did we have to commit half a day to that little hello?
I mean, if I had to do that every day, anyway, I mean, I think it's also part of the conversation in the sense that leading yourself is like really important. I mean, I would not have asked someone to do that. I'm not saying this person is, I doubt they're watching, but I would not have asked, let's say I was interviewing someone, you know, just because of my own, you know, maybe down the road, we're through, you know, this is like, we're about to make a decision. Let's have dinner.
Yeah.
Something like that.
The one point I would add is that if we're talking about leadership on a bigger level, not just social, the vast majority of leadership doesn't occur in white collar situations. Okay. There's a whole bunch of leadership that is still face-to-face people. Let's get out of our ivory tower and remember the rest of the freaking planet, right? People that are farming, people that are manufacturing things, people that are machining things. So the vast majority of leadership is still face-to-face. And we just got to be real careful, friends, to remember we're talking about a very small percentage of leadership that's actually happening. We got to remember that it's not optimal always for the vast majority of human beings to do it digitally because they've got to get down there and they got to look at that product and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that they can't be more digital. That's not what I'm saying. But folks, it's not just white collar, it's blue collar too. We got to remember, if we're going to talk about leadership, all the context.
Well, I think that's partly true, but I do think that, thinking about, think about, Jack Welch, how often did he go onto the shop floor to lead? Not at all. So the only way that leaders, particularly leaders at the top of an organization, but when Tim and I worked in a very large corporate, we never got to meet the people that were on the board. We never got to meet their direct reports.
You didn't have lunch with Larry Ellison.
We didn't. Although we got the offer many times, but we were just busy.
I was washing my hair.
So the people at the very top, we never met them. The next layer down, we never met them. The next layer down, we never met them. We were working in a bubble where we would get to engage with our managers and their managers, and probably no further up the organization than that. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that the only mechanism for leaders to lead large enterprises is now a digital mechanism. And you can either do that through calling everybody together for a town hall broadcast when you want everybody in the company sitting at their machines, or you can do it via social. And let's be honest, the reason that social is such a powerful tool, and the reason that I genuinely believe this is the mechanism for changing the world, is because everybody's already there. If you want to engage with somebody on Facebook, they're already there. It's easier to find people that are on Facebook than people that aren't these days. So these are the mechanisms for creating change and culture change and behavioral change at scale.
Yeah, I agree with you, Adam. And in fact, this is going to sound very strange, but last night I was lying in bed and I was thinking about social. I was thinking about why. Why is it so powerful? What is it about it? And I think it really is less about social and more about humans, right? We really crave interaction and relationship and being social. So the technology of social media is really driven by something that is fundamentally human. And I was thinking about another technology and why it's so effective. And I think it's because that technology encourages social interaction, and that's why it's so effective. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a necessity for all business to incorporate social in multiple levels. Not just social media, but social inside their organization, and using tools to encourage more social. It's like learning, for example, like social learning. I think. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
It's all gone quiet.
Yeah, it's all gone quiet over there.
I killed the conversation.
Well, I would just
with my social musings.
I would add to that, guys, that there's never been that I'm aware of. There's never been a time for a reset like we've got now, an opportunity for a reset. For leadership than there is today. There's so many examples. Adam, you gave a great one of the company where he's paying his employees, I believe, more than he was paying himself. But if you saw what Tim Cook tried to do, and he's reset it a couple of times since, with getting their employees in line, and how well that's gone with Apple, we can see some missteps and mistakes in the real world in real time. With how people are attempting to lead in these new times, and I would suggest that all the ideas around servant leadership, right, and it's a bit of a buzzword, but nonetheless, are very, very impactful as it relates to the new digital world we live in.
Yeah. And I wonder, Jesse's comment here too about generational differences. I think currently, and I mean, I don't want to sound like the old guy that's like, oh, well, this generation's so different. I think every generation looked down at the generation behind him and said, wow, this is different. But I think the digital revolution, digital transformation, social media, I think now more than ever, there is a much bigger challenge for leadership because the younger generation is very different. You know, people coming into the workforce right now, they grew up with this in their hand. They grew up with Twitter and texting and Snapchatting their friends. I mean, they just have very different contexts, and I think it's another variable in leadership that's really challenging.
Okay, but I mean, my partner's 26-year-old is desperate to be in the office, because the thing is that what he's looking for is mentorship, and he doesn't feel that he's getting mentorship by being online. He's looking to build a network within the organization, and he's looking to basically move up in the organization. And for him, that's all done face to face and his office space.
And it doesn't have to be, though, right? Like
it doesn't have to be, but that's how he perceives it. And a lot of people that I know that are going into the city of London generally are younger people, because they see the sociability, and it's generally old people that are happy to sit at home because they've got families, they've got et cetera. Now, it's a sweeping generalization I'm making. Right. But so it's not, people can start writing in and saying that's not the case with me. Well, of course, there will always be people that are different, but there is a generational difference. And I thought what would happen is that younger people, because they grew up, their first computer was a mobile phone rather than a whatever. But actually, what I've seen certainly with Luke is the fact that he actually wants to his sociability is actually meeting people and being in the office. And I agree with Jesse saying that there is a generational difference.
Do you think
I think there's an opportunity there? Sorry, Lenwood, real quick. There's an opportunity there for older than leaders to recognize there's a desire for mentorship, and even though we're digital, to create the opportunity for that, because it's going to create a better culture. You're going to create better younger leaders that are going to eventually replace you, and doing things like I'm reading about, and I've got one next week. We're doing a digital bourbon tasting, right? Boxes of little bourbon bottles are going to get sent out. We're all going to meet on a Zoom, and we've got somebody that's going to lead it, and we're going to be able to taste on our own, but we're all going to be virtual. And that's a mentoring opportunity too, because it's more social. It has an opportunity to be able to pour into the next generation. Sorry, Lenwood.
That's all right. I think that, that's it's really interesting point Tim made. I want to ponder it a little further. And I guess my question is it really more about both purpose and being intentional, that maybe some of this needing to be face-to-face or what was happening in the office was like, well, we'll just all kind of throw it in the pot, and then, we'll get culture to come out of it, or we'll get things, you know what I mean? If we're just all in the same place, we'll build relationships, right?
And that's where the innovation starts.
Yes, if we're just in the same place playing ping pong and drinking, then someone will have a brilliant idea. So I guess what I'm saying is that when we're think about hybrid work or remote work or different ways of working, that we have to be much more intentional about all of the things that we think are necessary to create the environment that we want, whether that be, mentoring, leadership development, coaching, creating social time where people come to the office or come to a place specifically to be social. I think that there's in this transition an opportunity or a necessity to be more intentional about the specific pieces that go into what we want to create.
Because it's not as easy now as just saying, right, okay, things are starting to open up. Governments and controlling bodies are starting to say that we can all move back. So I'm the CEO. Yes, get everyone back to work. Actually, 50% of them don't want to come.
Yeah.
50% of them don't want to come back, and they've said they're just not coming.
Yeah. So we gotta be more creative.
Well, I want. It's worth repeating the story that Thomas told. In case people haven't heard it, which is the story of the company that he's aware of. The CEO said, "You're all back in the office next Monday," and 50% of the people resigned.
Oh, crikey! The power.
Yeah. And while he rescinded it back on the Wednesday, there will be some people that would. It's that you've broken the bond of trust. And there's no going back. Some people may have actually said, "Okay, yeah, I'll come back and work." But this thing of the Great Resignation, I was doing a podcast the other day, and Laura was basically saying, when people come back from holidays. So in Europe, August is the big month of holidays, and people go on holiday, they reflect on what they're doing, they come back in September, and they go, "Do you know? I can't be asked to commute into London for the rest of my life. I'm going to go and do something different."
Yeah.
Now, that creates a great opportunity for people to go, okay, well, there's a job opening and I'm going to go and do that. But then there's another job opening, and then there's another job opening, and then there's another job opening. And it's like a domino effect. So I think it's going to go on. Yes, there will be people will decide what they're going to do. I seem to be the only person in London without a dog. Everyone's gone out and got dogs, so they can't go into work now because they've gone and got dogs. So they've got to be at home. So so all of these things, it's going to have a massive impact. And as leaders, we have to take it into account, because to get the best talent, you've got to get the best environment and the best culture.
Well, that's the size of the problem. The size of the problem. One of the things that you shared in our Slack chat, Tim, was the fact that one company said that 65% of their sales roles are open hires.
Yes.
So they've got the problem with it. They're trying to grow their business, and they've got this they're hemorrhaging staff that have just said, like you said, come back from holiday. Actually, things are going to change from now on. So they've handed in their notice. 65% of the sales roles they're trying to recruit for. Now, if that's representative of even half of the businesses out there, there's a massive skills gap, isn't there? And you're right. It has to be an attractive place to work. It has to be somewhere I want to go. I can either work from home, work partly from home, take my dog into work, whatever it is that makes it my place to want to put, pitch my tent. If leaders haven't got that and aren't creating a culture which creates that desire to move there, then they're dead in the water.
Yeah, I agree.
Scott McGregor has an expression: "People over everything." Right?
People what? Sorry.
People over everything. It's like a fraction. Like people. Like at the end of the day, everything's about people. And I think the big problem that corporations have with the big resignation is they've lost step on the freedom that a lot of the workforce, especially white collar, now have. Like they thought they had power, and they didn't. They actually didn't. And so people come back from holiday and they're like, you know what? I don't need to do that, and I don't have to later. And so I think that people need, especially if you're working with folks that are white collar, I think you need to focus on retention when you're hiring, not after.
Focus on retention when you're hiring. That's incredible.
Well, think about how much it costs to replace a salesperson.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that whole ramp up of competence and networking and all of that. And to lose that again and start again is painful.
Yeah. And I think, to paraphrase Adam, start the way you want to finish. Like focus on retaining the salespeople by how you recruit, interview, hire, onboard, mentor.
Yeah, make it a place that people don't ever want to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, if you tell them to take the hill, they have to be willing to go take the hill.
if you tell them to go take the hill, see, once in the military, always in the military. Go take the hill.
That's the problem, too, is people think that
Guys, I'm thinking maybe we should go up the hill. Can we have a chat about that? How do you feel about that? How do you feel
that
about
doesn't work as well. That doesn't work as well with bullets. But
Can we reflect on how we took the hill last time?
Has anyone got the lessons learned part?
Because three of my mates don't exist anymore. They're all in your bags.
The reflection is only with people that survived, unfortunately.
There's a Monty Python sketch in here, isn't there?
One of my favorite lines about the hill, and I love this one, and I think about it all the time, is, do I want to die on this hill? Is this the hill I want to die on? Right? And as leaders, I think that's one of the most important questions, not just for you, but for your team. Is this really the issue that I want everybody to suffer through? Or is this something we can find a way to work around? Right? And when you think about the workers that don't want to come back to work, do I want to lose half of my team or a good chunk of my team? Or do I want to find a way to make our operation work better in the digital world?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Thank you, Kevin.
So just so everybody knows, as we've got just like 4 minutes left, our great leader, Eric Doyle, has been nominated in a poll. And Kevin Milne has basically shared the link. And what we need to do is we need votes for Eric to win. Because what we want to be able to do is start calling him the award-winning Eric Doyle.
That is leadership at its finest. Leadership.
And so Gary, if you've not done it already, could you do us a favor? Will's probably all done it, and Vanessa's probably all done it already. But if you're watching or listening, Kevin shared a link. If you could go and vote for Eric, we'd be really grateful.
Thank you very much.
It's all about winning. It's just about winning.
It's all about
I would say if you need an award, we could create one for you, and then we could call it.
I need an award, Brent. I need it. I need it in my life.
I almost did a post this morning, Eric. I have just been nominated and won for the greatest social selling expert, age 53, weighing over 225 pounds.
In your street.
That's right.
That wears a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Infrequently.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh, that's very good of you, Kevin. Thank you. Really.
So we need Eric to win this. I think it's because he's battling it out with every time. It's a bit like an eBay
an auction, yeah.
Someone like bids another $5, and you go, no, another $5, no $5, no.
Oh my goodness, it's just.
When I was voting again with multiple devices, including my wife's this morning, it was the gamification of being able to see votes change.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we're now.
Yeah. Oh, we're on it. We're here. So
wait. Should I get my team to write a bot this afternoon and
please?
Yeah.
Run through some IPs?
If people are getting some questions about it, all you need to do is page down and find Eric. What's the category, Eric?
So it's the Account-Based Engagement Summit 2021, and it goes from account-based engagement thought leaders, it goes through executives, and then it's into managers. So
then it's managers.
The managers
and Eric's
level.
On the right-hand side. So if you page down,
the one that looks a bit like Adam
is click on the vote button. This chat bot opens up. Just ignore that. And by the way, if you can vote on multiple devices using multiple web browsers,
someone's just done it.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Eric will send you beer.
But it is a 2-horse race. It's you and someone else.
Whoa!
Yes, it is. It's a 2-horse race.
Position. So
if I get my team to write a bot and you win, I expect breakfast burritos.
It's coming. It's 100%.
You'll be invited onto the breakfast burrito.
What are those? When I used to work in
Hussein.
Yes, exactly. Let's not call her out. She's a lovely person.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
She's a lovely person. We're still alive. Michelle, I love you to bits. What were those things? You guys in the States will be able to tell me. When I used to work in Houston, every day to the Houston office, this lovely little man came in with a box full of these things and put them at the coffee point round about coffee time. And they were kind of like little round things with they had scrambled egg and jalapenos in them, and they had like pastry on the outside.
Empanada?
No. They were they looked like a filled donut, but actually, when you bit into it, some had scrambled eggs, some had sausage meat. They always had a jalapeno in there. Was it
Yeah, I'd say it's like a breakfast empanada.
Yeah, it's a breakfast empanada.
Would kolache mean anything?
Maybe.
What?
It's
Kolache?
really a hot pocket.
A kolache? No.
Kolache? Kolache? No.
That's what they say. You're talking Louisiana, right?
Well, Houston.
No, Houston.
Well,
Probably more
Houston's
Hispanic.
I lived in Houston a couple summers. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Or hear that term.
It sounds more like a. It does sound like an empanada.
Churros. That's what I was thinking it was. A churro, but
Definitely not churro. It's
a
savory.
churro's wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
It's cinnamon and sugar too.
Deep fried.
Yeah.
Eric, Odessa says that she says it sounds like they were trying to kill you.
Possibly, yeah.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to America.
Fatty food.
I remember one time going into my boss's office and I was freaking out about something that wasn't happening and blah 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 blah. And my boss was eating one of these little things and just looked up and went like that. And I went, "What?" And he said, and he was pointing to the American flag and just carried on eating. Okay, sorry, no problem. I'll leave. Remember where you are, son.
What was the name of your biggest fan in Louisiana? What was his name? That guy?
Which one?
The one the one that really supported you all the time.
I didn't know which one you mean.
You imitated so well.
Yeah.
Leroy.
Yeah, Thibodeau, Boudreaux, something like that. Yeah. Oh my goodness! I have to say thank you so much to everyone who's actually jumped in. The numbers have spiked. The fight's on. The fight's on. It's live.
Come on,
really.
Eric. Come on.
Come on. Let's just do like a telethon. Let's just stay on and go. Come on. 1, 3, 3. Your move, Hussein. Your move.
Yes, I can take 10 votes pledged to Eric Doyle. Thank you.
Well, so welcome to the Eric voting telethon.
Which reminds me of American election.
Let's what we need to do is get out there and vote for Eric. You know it makes sense.
If you want me to perform for you, do things, do challenges, I can do it here online. If you want me to sing or tell jokes or
we will take challenges for votes.
Challenges for votes. Do a handstand, Doyle.
No, I don't want to see that.
No, you don't want to see that. Don't want to see that.
I'm excited to see what Eric's willing to do for votes.
I already know what color sock you're wearing.
We'll do things for votes.
All right, I got you.
Thank you.
I got you voted on 3 browsers.
Oh my goodness, we're actually fessing up here that we're gaming the system. I'm going to get banned. I'm going to get banned.
Hey, it's a good thing no one watches a digital download. They'll never know.
Yeah, they'll never know.
Dear Mr. Doyle, Mr. Lee said he was going to create a bot, and your votes jumped up to 5,500.
Do I need to say I was just kidding right now?
Yes, please do a disclaimer.
Never do that.
Never do that.
Never.
Is
do
it
that.
10 o'clock?
Do it.
No, it's after 10 o'clock.
Cool.
So thank you, everybody, and don't forget vote for Eric. And we'll see you next week.
Did we sort leadership? Did we fix it?
No.
Hey,
I don't think so. No.
Hey Tim, before we leave, would you create and maybe you guys a Napoleon Dynamite style T-shirt that says "Vote for Eric," please? Nobody else is getting my joke. All right. do at least my American cohorts over here understand
I'm
Not even the Americans got it.
I'm not helping you on that.
And Thomas is Canadian.
But it was just a little white T-shirt. We just vote for Pedro.
Vote for Pedro. Exactly.
Vote for Pedro. Come on, guys.
Come on. Pedro. Come on. All right. Thanks for being there for me, Eric.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.